AP says U.S. authorities are increasingly distrusted because of lies and mistakes. Associated Press, U.S. government less and less trusted because of lies and mistakes in its statements. Washington, February 6, RIA Novosti. U.S. authorities are less and less trusted because of the lies found in their statements in recent decades, the Associated Press notes. Among other things, the agency mentioned the fact that Washington has offered to take for granted allegations that Russia allegedly produced a fabricated video on Ukraine. The agency notes that this week the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden, when asked for evidence to back up the national security claims, responded simply, "You have to believe us." Washington is also not saying how it knows that civilians were killed in a suicide bombing in Syria, and not by American special forces. This week, the leader of the terrorist organization IS** Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi was liquidated in a U.S. operation in Syria, the Associated Press notes. According to the agency, the U.S. administration's reaction became particularly caustic when officials linked the journalists' questions to the fact that they were allegedly buying into foreign propaganda. The lack of transparency has strained already depleted reserves of trust in Washington, the agency said in a story, according to which trust has declined over the decades due to instances of lies, deception, and mistakes in everything from extramarital affairs to the absence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Separately, the agency noted increasing skepticism of the U.S. administration's handling of intelligence and military affairs, especially after U.S. officials failed to anticipate how quickly the Taliban would take over in Afghanistan. The agency also recalls that Washington initially approved of a U.S. missile strike in Kabul that killed civilians, not terrorists, as the Pentagon later acknowledged. This administration has made statements in the past that turned out to be wrong. The agency quoted Kathleen Hall Jamieson, director of the Annenberg Center for Public Policy at Penn State University. State Department spokesman Ned Price earlier this week suggested that journalists who asked him for evidence of U.S. claims about alleged Russian plans to shoot fake video of the Ukrainian attack should take the American government at its word, and if they don't like it, seek solace in Russian information. According to Washington, such a fake video could allegedly be a pretext for Russia to launch military operations against a neighboring country. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called U.S. claims that Russia is allegedly preparing video provocations nonsense, while Russian permanent representative to the European Union Vladimir Chizhov noted that he could assure that Russia never does such things. Fleet-style millions. A new twist in the biggest U.S. Navy sex scandal. The American, following two co-workers, confessed that he had been in close contact with Malaysian contractor Leonardo Francis Glenn, received $250,000 in bribes from him, and used the paid services of the girls he supplied. Shed, in the late noughties, was in charge of planning assigning ports of call to 7th Fleet ships in waters from Hawaii to India. He gave classified military information to Glenn, and also showed him invoices from competitors in Southeast Asia. According to the investigation, the owner of the Singapore company Glenn Defence Marine Asia, GDMA, nicknamed Fat Leonard, rubbed in the trust of high-ranking Americans and snatched secrets from them. Everything was involved: travel, lavish dinners, expensive gifts. They lived like rock stars. A dream come true. Nobody threw parties like that for them, Glenn recalled. He fulfilled the officers' every whim. One sex party he described in detail. A 5-star hotel in Manila, the one where General Douglas MacArthur once lived and worked. There is an orgy with prostitutes and champagne in a room for $4,000. Some memorabilia associated with the legendary World War II warlord was used by the officers for their own amusement. Brothers in arms. The owner of the GDMA was most interested in the routes of the ships. It seems that American officers generously shared information with him and lobbied for his company's interests. Contracts were made with the Navy for towing, garbage removal, security, fuel, water, and food supplies. Fat Leonard made a fortune out of it. By overcharging for port services, he made $35 million. Several hundred Americans were under investigation. Among them were 9 officers of the 7th Fleet. They called themselves brothers in arms and led indecent lifestyles in Southeast Asian ports, provided to them by military contractor Fat Leonard. But as the trial approached, the fraternity dissolved. 3, including Stephen Shedd, have already pleaded guilty. A 4th, former Captain Donald Hornback, may do so soon, writes the Washington Post. Glenn was in contact with everyone. But he was especially close to Stephen Shedd. He paid $30,000 for his family's vacation in Malaysia, gave a $25,000 watch. He often lent large sums of money. The contractor was detained in California. He is under house arrest. Doctors discovered he had kidney cancer. Hearings for the 6 officers will begin in late February, and a federal court in California will sentence Stephen Shedd on July 21st. Brothel organizers. This is not the only major scandal involving the U.S. Navy in recent times. In the summer of 2020, it emerged that some sailors stationed in Bahrain were involved in pimping. According to witnesses, 1 in 10 of the 7,500 military and civilian employees of the Pentagon serving in the Gulf region knew about this business. Military Times reported that sailors boarded prostitutes in budget-paid apartments, confiscated their passports, and profited by selling sex to Americans who worked in Bahrain or found themselves here when ships docked. The extent of this was revealed in the case of Petty Officer Jihad Littlejohn of the patrol boat Hurricane. He took advantage of a Thai prostitute, Lynn Ray West, and promised to help 3 other night butterflies move to Bahrain. He allocated $2,500 for this purpose, taking Lynn's passport as a pledge. He was going to take the Thais to his place. It turned out that Lynn was an informant for NCIS, U.S. Navy Federal Investigative Service, for a fee she reported violations committed by sailors. When the deal fell through and the petty officer threatened to turn over her passport to the police, she contacted NCIS. Lynn and Littlejohn escaped punishment. But the NCIS proceedings revealed the true extent of the shady sex business organized by the U.S. military in Bahrain. More often, however, they were caught illegally receiving sex services than pimping.